Hello and welcome to part 2 of our discussions with Joe White. Joe, welcome back.
Thank you.
I am excited because we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to show some clips from If Beale Street Could Talk, which is out in theaters now.
Yeah.
And we're also going to later invite Annalie to sort of look at our discussion and add her input to it.
Absolutely.
Annalie Blank is the re-recording mixer.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess we should just sort of set up the movie a little bit.
Okay.
If Beale Street Could Talk, based on the James Baldwin novel.
Based in 1974.
New York City.
New York City, Harlem. A black family, a couple really, that go through, their love for each other shows through this entire process of them being really toyed with the system. And how they handle that. So.
And Barry Jenkins was the
director. He wrote the script. At the same time, he wrote Moonlight.
Right.
But while he was in Europe writing Moonlight, he wrote Beale Street. He actually did Beale Street first, but he didn't have the rights for it, and so he did Moonlight and then circled back around to Beale Street, which is really interesting. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I want to talk generally about working on the project, but then we'll get into the some clips that it's Annapurna is the production company. Is that right? Yeah, they graciously allowed us to screen some clips.
Yeah.
I imagine that was really a challenge. Again, this is a film that's really, the visuals are some of the most stunning visuals I've seen in a drama.
Absolutely.
But the words carry the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
How is that? Must have been very challenging, given that these words were so precious in a way.
Absolutely. Well, having the James Baldwin estate actually give permission to do a film, because this is the first one they've ever given permission to do a film of his works. It was really important to get it right, to capture all of that. It must have been. I thought it would be more concerning for like Barry, because he pinned it. He wrote the script, and to keep true to what they felt was a James Baldwin novel. But to capture the words was like, I really felt like, wow, no, it's really important that we capture all these performances, and the words are really, you're right, it drives the whole machine. And that's supposed to be true for all the movies, but especially for one that's derivative of a novel, that's really like the wording and the phrase turn, and that was really important in the novel. And it's really important, and I feel like it was really important in the movie, and they did things that were made sense visually to serve that end also, because you can't say everything that the novel does.
Right.
So you have to represent in another way, and visually I feel like they did that.
Totally nailed it.
And the words were right. I felt like everything came together, which was really important.
Were there any, aside from the usual technical challenges, which part 1 we talked, a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
Were there any additional issues or considerations? Like, what were the actors' accents like? Did you ever get into like the tone of it?
Right. Not necessarily the tone. They tried to keep it as neutral a language palette as possible, so that it could really play across a generation of several generations of people, and he didn't want to get into the jivey sound of some of the dialogue can be in the novel, so he kept it kind of more accessible, I guess. But for us, we kind of concentrated on the the sound of the voices, the sound quality of the voices, and that was important because the actors were so great. Yeah. The voices were so great. It's like, and when you hear somebody has a great voice or speak to them and like, wow, I would love to record your voice. That's what we felt like we were doing the entire movie. And we're trying to just serve that the entire time. And that's difficult. You know, you're not just talking about capturing, you know, every word, every syllable, every inflection. You're talking about the depth of the sound, the frequency response of all, you know, all across all frequencies and how it resonates in your head.
I think about timbre a lot. Like
Absolutely.
I teach part-time, and I encourage students to kind of like cast with their eyes closed for this reason. And, the clip that we're about to see, I'm already planning on, as soon as I can, show it to my students because, like you said, the range of voices, like each actor's voice has sort of like this depth to them.
Absolutely.
Did you, like, how do you sort of balance the technical with like not having, feeling proprietary about it? Like, how do you work with other departments in a case like this?
Right. It's a lot of the usual suspects. You know, you have to deal with the lighting, being able to get a boom in close, and all that. This was difficult, and I should have brought this up before, but this was difficult because a lot of the locations we were using were fairly noisy. And the stage that we had wasn't a real stage. So the flooring was the original flooring, which is this old warehouse flooring.
You're talking about specifically the apartment. Okay, so let's set this up. So this is pretty early on in the movie. This is in the apartment. And it's pretty early on, and the daughter has some news to share with the family.
Yeah, she brings the news to the family,
and not everybody receives it so well.
We're
going to sort of see the first part of the scene, the first third, and then the third of the scene. Is how what we could get permission for. Which actually. The middle third is explosive.
It is.
Literally.
It is. And they should really see that. It's amazing, that whole scene.
Let's watch it and then we can talk.
All right.
They're not too much for Tish.
All right. What's going on?
This is a sacrament. And no, I ain't lost my mind. We are drinking to new life. Tish gonna have Fonny's baby. Drink. That child is coming. It's your grandchild. I don't understand you. It's your grandchild. What difference does it make how he gets here? The child ain't got nothing to do with that. Ain't none of us got nothing to do with that. That child. That child. That child. That child. That child. Get your shit. Take your shit with you.
So, everybody should see this movie.
Absolutely.
And it's,
Absolutely.
this what we can't show really has some huge dynamic range, and of course, this must have been like a 10 or 12-page scene.
Yeah,
and
it was like 9.5, 10 pages. Yeah,
and you know, we're seeing the kind of the bookends of it,
right?
But the blocking and the dynamic range of the performances. Are what really struck me, and I wonder if you could talk about some of the challenges.
Sure. I mean, like you said, the dynamic range of it, it was tough going from like snidey whisper to really, really, loud laugh to yelling
lungs,
and a lot. I know the scene, I think there were 8 people in the scene. I knew we were going to have to wire them because there was a huge mirror behind the couch. And I don't know if you could see it. It's the longest mirror, and it was built into this wall. And the first thing we did.
Now let me just stop you for a second, because this kind of makes me insane.
Yeah.
This was a set?
No. This was a location.
This was a location?
That's a location.
Oh my God!
Now,
I just assumed.
Right, it was. I know it was a location, and it was in Harlem. It was on. I forget exactly where, but it was right by the park, 140s, I think. And it was a location. We scouted the set. We scouted the building. Is it not abandoned, but the guy was selling the building, so we could do whatever we want.
Right.
So first thing I said when I saw the mirror, I'm like, can we get rid of this mirror? And Barry's like, no, I like the way it looks. I'm like, you're gonna try to fit 8 people and 2 cameras and with all the accoutrements and booms and stuff, and in that room with 8 people talking,
and it can't gimbal, it can't move,
cannot move at all. And I'm like, this is gonna be terrible. This is gonna be terrible. It's like I don't want to have to use wires for the time. And I was worried about that, the yelling and stuff.
Well, and that's what I mean when it's like you get proprietary about that stuff. Like, I want it. This is going to work on a boom. Yeah. And you have to. Yeah. How do you take a step back?
Yeah. And honestly, it was tough because I didn't want to rely on the wires for any part of the scene. It was just a backup. So I treated it like that. So I never had. I had once. I pulled up a wire just to fill in when somebody went toward the couch and it was just. I'm like, okay, I'll just play it a little bit. But I used the booms the entire time. 2 booms. That's all I gave them in the mix, and because that's what I wanted to hear. Yeah. And so we boomed all the off camera that we could. At one point, I think we had 3 booms in there, grabbing someone. Wow. It was like not a lot of space. Yeah. But I was worried about, the range of it, the people that were, sitting deeper than the others. Some were sitting up. Yeah. So you have all this gradation of the people standing at the table or sitting at the table. It was intense trying to just make sure we got everything. Not to mention making sure the quality of it was great. It was tough. And Barry was very gracious about if we needed to go again, what we need to do. We need the off camera not to be overlapped too much, because once you start to get into it, he liked the natural feel of it. So we played a lot of that.
Yeah, there's a whole kitchen area that we don't see in here, but where there's off camera stuff.
Absolutely. And then even on the couches themselves, once they start to go at each other, right? It's like, oh, okay. So how do we do this? You're trying to get 2 cameras, and you're seeing this couch and this couch through the mirror. It was tough, but Barry and James Laxton, the DP, were like, oh well, how can we help with this then? And,
that's great.
They were still trying to keep us in mind, which was great. But it was a great scene. Everybody wanted to get it. Yeah. Yeah. It was tough.
You guys nailed it. I mean, the 2 minutes that we can show don't really do it full justice, but yeah.
And at that point, it was myself. Alfredo Buteri was booming, and T.R. Boyce was my utility person. So they were working hard the entire day in that room, like just moving around trying to find a place to be, but because I needed both of them to be booming.
Did you get it in one day? Was it?
That was I think the bulk of that was one day. I think the first part of that was a different day.
Huh.
And then the when the family comes over, that's a total separate scene. That we did in one day.
Wow.
Plus maybe a bit. But it was a nice long day. It was intense and the actors were great. They were very gracious and they were so good. Just so good. And the voice quality everybody's voice was different in different aspects of his voice, but they were special. Everybody sounded very good, like in the ear when you're talking to them. And I was like, this is great.
Well, we talked a little bit that you have a composing background, and listening to it, if you just listen to it as notes, it is like a score.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's really, and it's like, it's really
ranges of voice, and these baritones, and these tenors are just, I love that sound. And high sopranos, supreme sopranos used to call them. It's like that, but that's a different quality. But it's when it's great, it's great. And you can listen to it all day. And that's the way I felt like these actors were. Each one of them had like a really specific sound, and they were really full voiced, and they were just, it sounded so good. Just when you were listening to like them sitting out doing the scene without having recorded, it's like, wow, this is going to be good. If I can get it, if I can get in there, it's going to be good. Again, I used the 4/16s on this. It was my mic of choice for most of my career was the 4/16s because of what you can get, the sound that you can get from a longer distance if you needed to. And but when you get real close on them, you have to be careful, of the sound that you're getting, because then you start to get the higher end more, and you want to get the lower, the proximity for the lower end, but sometimes that smacking gets a little heavy, so you have to be careful. But I thought we captured it mostly, and that was mostly booms. That was a great thing. That they didn't use a lot of the wide shots. And by wide shots, I mean, it was the couch and 3 people. It wasn't, there was no way to get the entire scene in a wide shot. There was just not enough space to get the camera back far enough. Right. It's like, and you use a fisheye, nobody liked the look of that. So, so it was good that we didn't go, we weren't desperate to get like huge swaths of people in the picture.
I have some nerdy stuff to ask.
Absolutely.
Second floor, third floor,
Second floor.
Walk up, I assume.
Oh, walk up. Yeah. Walk up. It was the old brownstone.
Yeah.
And
where were you?
I was downstairs.
That I find completely maddening.
Yeah.
I mean, you have video, but
video.
It's not the same.
It's being there and seeing. But my experience on set, like it's good to picture, like they'll describe like an issue. I don't have to go out because I was like, okay, now I understand what you're saying, blah, blah. I don't see this camera, so let me, what's going on with that. Stuff like that. The communication between the booms and the mixer was paramount important. And even though I've been on set, I understand what the issues are and because I've been on set. I boomed, so I'm like, I don't have to come upstairs to look at it and say, what, can you explain this to me? Right. Because they just didn't have time to do that. And so it was good that we didn't have to. But that's where communication between the technicians that are working the set and yourself is really important. How, knowing each other, knowing, what each other needs, and it was really helpful to have a rapport. I worked with Alfredo a long time ago. Alfredo was my boom op for a couple of movies that we did, and he and so he has the same language, same basic knowledge that me and Jason have, like our a kinship to each other. So it was easy. It was easy just to pick things up and really understand, like, okay, you need this? Okay, great. Because we've got to get this, this, and this. Right. It's like, that's more important, and we'll have TR get this. Right. Which is, it was good. It was good to have those guys.
Was there a plan going into it from pre-production? Like, did you have conversations with Barry? Did you start making plans on the Scout?
Right. It was mostly on the Scout that we started to really, it started to solidify. And I was like, okay, well, I know what I need to do. There's some things I need to attend to immediately. There's some things I need to ask the designer about. Like who's doing production design? Like, cause it's like, we needed area rugs. It's like, can we have an area rug or something? And they were able to do that. And there's a lot of things in the kitchen that were like, how can we keep this? Because it was kind of rickety when we first went in there. Like, can we shore things up, so that they're not so creaky, like the cabinets, and you open it, it was like, it wasn't even the hinge. It was the cap between the cabinets.
The wood shifting.
Things like that. And TR was on it, and I had to be ahead of it. So that it didn't cause us a problem later. And, but there's things that we couldn't change, like that big mirror. That was the bane. I knew, having been on set, I'm like, I know this is going to be an issue. Now, Barry, I'm not sure if he just really liked it or if he didn't foresee the problems that this was going to cause, whether it was worth it or not. But I was like, this is going to be an issue. And it's like, it might not be an issue immediately. When you try to put 2 cameras and 8 people in here, it's going to be an issue. It's going to come up. It came up a couple of times.
I mean, the only, like, you don't have to say much, because then they start seeing the other camera. It becomes everybody's, or they see lights.
It's not just boom. Exactly. Where do you light from in a room that you can't even stand in? It was tough for everybody, but I think some people learned a lot on that too.
That is, the one thing about the new cameras I find is the lighting really does get a lot simpler. It's interesting, depending on what they're going for.
Right.
But anyways, all right, we'll cut that part out. Not going anywhere. Let's watch the second clip.
Okay.
Second clip where now Barry had an interesting term I saw where they were like, he called them flash forwards, flash. But he's right. Like, these are sort of like memories of a happier time, and we get to see what brought them together as a couple. And this is when they're visiting, like, where they hope to make their home, a loft.
They're looking for apartments, and nobody is going to rent to them, and or at least where they want to be. So they have to look, and some other options. And this loft space was. And
this is 70s New York when. These were sort of questionably regal residential spaces. I mean, well, look, this is again. Definitely, maybe we'll cut this out, and I'm sorry. But I mean, one of the things watching this movie is this could be 2019.
Absolutely.
Which is incredibly sad for me. So they are having to look at this space, and he really has to convince her, because it's the kind of spaces that would rent to an African American couple. Are not traditional spaces, as we will see.
Absolutely.
I know it doesn't look like much right now, but we're not done. You see, you gotta imagine that there's like walls all the way up and down here, and I mean, it's a work in progress.
See, Tish, it's not done. It's a work in progress.
Honey, I'm sorry, but how we gonna make this into a home?
Look, imagine the walls, right? Over here and over here.
But where we gonna cook and sleep and bathe? I mean, where my mama and them gonna sit?
Easy. But I put a couch right over here. Huh? Mama, Daddy, maybe even Ernestine, right? And the bed I put all the way back there, right against the wall. So I can see that pretty light on your face when the sun rises. Some of my sculptures over here and over here, right? As far as eating goes, I was thinking we could put a table right here. What you think?
I don't know, Fonny.
As far as I'm concerned, the only thing we're missing is a fridge. But I don't want to throw my back out before we even have a chance to make a kid. Hey, Levy, come on, give me a hand with this fridge, man.
You want me to?
Yeah, come on, help me out. I need you to get the door. Get the door, come on. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready. 3, 2, 1. Up. Okay. All right, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right,
Okay.
slowly now.
Okay.
Careful.
All right, why am I straining more than you?
I got you. Right on back here. Yeah, right here. Perfect.
Right.
Woo. That sure took a load out of me.
Yeah, me too.
But what a man wouldn't do for love, eh, Levy?
Amen.
Well, thank you for my fridge, boys. But don't forget about my stove.
Oh yeah, of course not. You mind helping me out with the stove?
Not at all,
Levy?
no.
All right, we gotta make sure we get that.
Yeah, that was
So
very interesting.
I can imagine, you know, if you're just reading the script,
Yeah.
you're like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's 3 people talking.
Yeah.
We got this.
Yeah, and it wasn't even all of that. There wasn't even that much. I think they kind of added on the day. But yeah, it was like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay. So we're gonna see the whole thing. Oh, we're gonna see it all in one. We're gonna see all of it at the same time. Like what? So we can't be. I couldn't even be anywhere on the floor. It was like I was like back around. It was. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be tough. So like they're lifting a fridge. Is that? I don't understand what. It was very. It was very odd things that were. And this was. When we scouted, this was the first place we looked because it was the first place we were going to shoot. And it was, you know, all those windows are open. You can see them that they're open. And it's like, and downstairs there's like a truck depot or something. And like, depending on the time of day, we might get totally blown out of this. And we have really no control over it. But, you know, but the busy times of the day, you know, it would be terrible.
Right.
And I was like, and I mentioned it. I don't know how much it played into how they ended up doing it, but we ended up shooting at a kind of a dead period. So we just had like some Jenny out there or something. It was not so bad. We dodged a bullet.
Nice.
But I had to use wires for that scene because there was, in order for us to keep the sound consistent, it had to be wires. I played the wires throughout the entire scene, and you know, and at that point, Alfredo would always try to get in where he could, but it was hit or miss. So.
Yes, I mean the acoustics of that were intense.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I imagine, you know, it's one of those things where you split as a technician, like this 360 is a pain in the ass, but you really see the space and you really, and you get a sense of it and it justifies the way it sounds.
Yeah, and the other things that we tried to do is, well, I had to get ambient of this, you know, like, so I had a mic way in the corner, like right around the corner, but it wasn't in a prime spot. I tried to get close to some of the noise that was being made also, because there's another stairway all the way at the other end, and you can hear the downstairs, like, stuff wafting through. I'm not sure what it was. So I had a mic down there. I don't know how much they used, and that's a good question to ask Annalie, like how much they used of that.
It sounds like it may have inspired them.
Maybe.
Because there's a bed of like, you know, worker.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, which is good. Sometimes it covers up what's out there. Like, okay, well, and I had the mics a little lower in this because I felt like instead of just in your ear and direct, I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear more of the room like I would on a boom.
Yeah.
So we had just a smidge lower than I would normally go, just to get make it more sound a little bit more natural. Worked out, I think. I think it worked out pretty good. There's some instances I was like, I don't like that so much, but
yeah.
But on the whole, it's like being a boom person, you know, it's like it sounded pretty good on the wires.
What struck me was how natural it played.
Yes,
It
the
played
space,
completely natural.
Yeah, it was really. I think they did a good job with putting it all together.
Again, I'm going to go to nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
How do you keep the crew quiet in something like that?
Yeah, it was. Everybody was very respectful on set, and I think I don't know if it was Barry's status or the fact that we're doing something that nobody's ever done before on that crew. I feel like nobody's ever done before, like a James Baldwin piece, like mostly all black actors. There's things that like this that just don't happen. Like when's the last time that you worked on something that was that pedigree? Like. So it was, I think people were the whole crew was really respectful of, what was happening, the process was happening, and that this was, I felt important.
And I should clarify, I didn't mean like just how do you get them to shut up. I mean like physically like when it's a 360 like that. Because like I just picture, I picture like there's a focus puller, there's obviously the camera operator. There's Alfredo's probably in that dance too.
I think a lot of that was we just cleared everybody. Like I think on Focus it was doing. It was someone who gone to school with Barry, and who was the first AC. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember anybody else on set. Alfredo was in and out. When they did the 360, I think it was just the operator. Focus puller was like behind the pillar, and Alfredo, stuck the booms, like where he could. Yeah. And then. That was how that 360 worked, like that one shot. It was very few, but you still get the operator's, feet and stuff. Yeah. It was good.
You don't hear it. I mean, it doesn't. Yeah. I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
It's always interesting, when you get a shot like that where you split between like this is really difficult to do, and why is it so difficult? But then you see that, and I'm curious to know if you got a sense of it when you were shooting that sort of moment where she puts it all in her, like she now is sharing in the vision. It's such a great moment. Did you get a sense of any of that? You get so.
I guess you get so bogged down with technically like making sure you get everything, so you don't really like. I mean, listening to it, yes, I get that sense, but I'm still so concerned with like making sure that there's not too much creaking, making sure the wires are working correctly, making sure making sure I've mixed it, the right wire at the right time, So it's only afterwards that I guess you start to appreciate that. At the time, it was technically I was saturated with that concentration, but I guess I really, you do get a sense of it. You do. It's just, you couldn't appreciate the way you can now. No. Like, you get a small sense of it, but
cool.
It was like, make sure it's where it sounds. It's gonna sound good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can talk all day. I actually have one other nerdy question. I'm sorry. Antennas. Were you able to hide them? How did you run that? If wires are the only way you're getting this,
right?
Do you take any precautions?
Yes. I try not to. My philosophy is I try to keep the cable from the antenna as short as possible. That means it rides on my cart, you know, like, you know, 4-foot antenna cable, because, you know, I don't want to lose any. I know that's silly, go to 20 and not really lose that much. But you know, I keep the cable short and the antennas I get as close as I can. But I've been blessed with, you know, having rock solid wires and reception. And I use the 1/4 watt transmitters on the body packs, so that I can, you know, I'm not pulling a lot from the antennas, and I'm not asking them to do a lot. I find that that's, you know, the best option. Every now and then, in this case, I was close enough to set that I didn't have to run the antenna out. I'll run the antenna out if I need to, like when I was, you know, if I'm downstairs or I have to be a flight down or something, I'll run the antenna up. But I've been very, very fortunate, and sometimes I've had to pull the antennas off, depending on what's in the area. So I have the strongest signal is the closest signal, and sometimes you have to adjust that. Sometimes I'll put the rubber ducky on, you know, just because I know it doesn't have as much grab as the Yagi, or the Yagi's facing the Empire State Building. So it's like, this is bad. But yeah, I try to keep the antennas close, short cable as possible, and I've been very lucky. Very, very fortunate.
Well, it sounds like you've planned it.
Yeah, it always sounds good. It's like, okay, this is great. Like when it doesn't work, it's like, oh, okay, what do we do now? But yeah, I've been very fortunate. Yeah, the plan has worked.
You've seen the movie?
Yes.
In the theater?
Yeah.
How do you like the sound?
I enjoyed it. I not only did I like it, I loved it. And it's hard for me to say that about projects I've worked with, because I will nitpick it to death, and I wish I'd done this differently. I was like, oh, now I know how I would do this. It sounded wonderful. There was a lot of things in it that I was worried about. There were a lot of sound issues that we could not fix. And so can
you give one example?
Well, one is in the apartment that you know, in their apartment that they have, Fonnie and Tish, and Tyree comes over. That is not a real set. It's a set in this stage, but it's not a stage. It's a warehouse that we've used.
Right.
So it's up in Yonkers. It's near a 4-lane highway, and it's a road that's super busy, and there's a bunch of other noises that we could not get rid of. And I was so worried. I recorded all these noises. I'm like, I had mics on them the entire time. I'm like, and that's where I was really contacting Anna Lee. And I was like, listen, this is coming down the pike. Like I'm not sure how I can help this. So I recorded everything I could on separate tracks. And so I have a dedicated mic to this one noise that was the generator outside that we couldn't get rid of. So I just recorded it constantly.
The production's own Jenny?
Yeah, it was, well, there was 2 Jennies. One was a production, and there was, in that building, there's nowhere to park anything. You couldn't technically put the Jenny anywhere else because they couldn't legally do it.
Right.
And I was like, it's hard to fight that. And so it stayed there. It was below, it was like 3 stories below and to the right as far as I could go. And you could still hear it. And it drove me crazy every single day they were there. And it was, but, it turned out, I guess it turned out all right, because I listened to it, and in a lot of those scenes you hear the rain effect too. I was like, I wonder if, I know they attenuated the microphones too, the tracks to get rid of
the noise.
Yeah, because I could hear the difference. I'm not sure that how much they had attenuated, but they definitely had to do some work to clean them up. Because there was you just couldn't get away from that noise. But the Jenny is so low that I'm sure there was not as much of a problem as I was imagining. I'm like, we're going to dump the whole thing.
That's the worst feeling.
Yeah, it's terrible. And especially with those performances, like, so worried about getting them. But
is that usual for you to be in contact with post-production?
It's, you know what, it's more and more, it's become a usual thing, something I need to do. Because I feel like if I know what's needed or the issues or something, and they know what's coming down the line, that communication has saved me a lot of trouble. And I'm sure it's made their workload a little bit easier. They say, hey, listen, like things are hot, really, really hot, and we're having trouble, evening this out. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got you. Okay, so this is the way I can adjust my mix or send them the lower tracks that I record at a lower dB, and do that way. But unless you have some kind of communication, it's like you're by yourself, and you're not. Yeah. You're feeding a group of people that have work on your product, and they have ideas of what they're gonna get. And if you tell them ahead of time, like, well, this is what's coming down the pike, or this is the problem, they're like, okay, we'll check into it. No, that's not a problem. We got this. Blah blah. I sent them send people a test of something I heard, and I send it on the send this into post right now. I want to hear. But the problem is that you don't always get to do that because they don't always hire the post sound people until later. Right. And it's a lot of cases, and that bothers me now because I want to always be in contact with post, to have that conversation as if we're a team, because we really are. Yeah. If you work together, you could really, really cure a lot of ills that happen on set.
I think that seems like a perfect sort of like taking off point to start our conversation with Annalise.
Absolutely.
So we'll leave it here.
Absolutely.
Joe, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks for having me. This is great. Nice forum.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Joe. Yeah. Thank you for watching. As always, find our video archives at gothamsound.tv. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And please send ideas to info@gothamsound.com. Thank you.